welcome to Family We've Got Your Back. This week we are talking about the dreaded word discipline. Bum, bum, bum.
And that's unfortunate. It's got a negative connotation.
It does. People think it's so derogatory, and so therefore it's bad.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have discipline in your home. That's,
yeah, but...
yeah, so some people are like, oh, well, yeah, you can't discipline your children anymore because that's just child abuse. And that's not what we're talking about.
No.
And we're not here to tell you how to discipline your children. We're not going to say, oh, you can't spank or you can only do appropriate consequences or whatever. We're not here to tell you that. That's not what we're doing tonight. We're defining discipline and then giving you some just things to think about.
Yep.
Because the casual parent is too prevalent today, we believe.
Very prevalent.
And they're just like, oh, well, let's let our kids make choices and
our
not
job as
interfere.
parents is to make their lives more enjoyable.
And that's not true.
No.
So the definition of discipline is... Hang on. I want to choose the right one because
several
dictionaries said that it's about punishment, and instead of the word punishment, we're going to substitute the word consequence. So anyway, so the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior to correct disobedience. Or, I really liked the 1800s dictionary version. It said, education, instruction, cultivation, and improvement. Instruction in sciences, correct sentiments, morals, and manners, and due subordination to authority. Another dictionary said that discipline was training that corrects, molds, or perfects the mental faculties or moral character. To train or to... the verb is to train or develop by instruction and exercise in self-control. So that is obviously not a negative thing.
No, it's a building thing.
It is. So basically, what we got from studying all the definitions of discipline was that it is a higher authority teaching, educating, helping those in their stewardship to learn the rules and then provide consequences when those rules are disobeyed.
Yeah, and
broken, or however you want to say it.
And the thing is like, the sad thing is that some consequences won't happen for maybe even decades.
Right.
And so you have to do something when they're young to prevent that from happening and they don't have the patience to know, oh, this is going to benefit me 20 years in the future.
Right.
And so...
yeah. It's like, I can't drive, but learning to read will help me drive. I want to drive, so I need to learn to read. Right? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if they don't have the discipline to learn to read, then they can't drive. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, part of the definitions were also like a specific area of study. Mm-hmm. So like the discipline of
medicine,
science or medicine, or and so it's an education-based principle is what we're saying. That discipline isn't necessarily spanking your kids or taking them out to the woodshed, that sort of thing. That's not what we're saying discipline is. We're saying discipline is a two-way street. The first part is the parents or whoever teaching those who do not know the rules. So people who don't know the rules, teaching them the rules, and then providing a consequence when those rules are broken, or a reward when they are
kept.
And so So anyway, and when you provide a consequence that you would never do when you're not angry is, let me rephrase that. So if when you are angry, the rules change for the providing the consequence for your kids or offering the consequence. So for example, if you are okay with spanking but you only do it when you're angry and you wouldn't ever do it when you're not angry, think about that.
Yeah, it can be.
So it's kind of like a double standard.
Yeah, it'll be
that you are saying, So what we're saying is, if you are angry and you threaten a consequence that you would never threaten if you were not angry, that's probably not a wise consequence.
Because then you're acting out of that anger and frustration.
Right. It's not a wise consequence for your family because you wouldn't do it when you aren't ruled by an incredibly strong emotion, right?
Yep.
And when you provide consequences for your children or yourself or whoever it is that you are trying to educate and train into a good character, if you would think beforehand, okay, so if this rule is broken, then this consequence will happen, then there is less likely to be deviation from that plan when you are angry. And so I guess what we're saying is never, I guess what we are giving you specific advice on how to discipline your children. Excuse me. Never do so in anger.
So
right?
that requires some forethought.
It does. And it requires self-control on your part.
Yep.
It requires discipline on your part. If you want to be a parent and raise contributing members of society that don't hate you in the future, it is wise to have discipline for yourself as well. And we're not saying you can never be angry with your children. We're just saying that when you are angry, before you get angry, decide. Okay, I am not going to threaten. I'm not going to provide consequences for my children. I'm not going to hit. I'm not going to whatever it is that you're choosing to do in your anger. Try not to do that when you're angry, right? And so just make the rule. Okay, so when I'm mad, the consequences that I'm trying to instill or provide or enforce don't count.
Let me give my example. So this last term, I was noticing a negative trend in my students, and so I decided, you know what, I'm tired of getting upset and angry and doing and having no plan of action, right? And so I made it very simple. If I see you doing something you shouldn't be doing, then you get there's a initial tally marks and no emotion whatsoever. It's like, oh, I observed this, and then you get a tally for that. I observed that.
Demerit.
A demerit. And if you get enough demerits, then your citizenship grade drops. And there was zero emotion. So the kids, unfortunately, I mean, some of them still continue to do this stupid stuff, but there was no negative reactions coming from me or from them. It was just, this is the report, and and I've got it right here. This is what you've done. If you want to get your citizenship back so you can go to these awesome activities at the end of the school year, then this is what you need to do. And if you do it, great. If you don't, you don't, and you won't get to go. No emotion.
Right. It's their
choice. Decided. It's decided from the get-go. And so we've already decided that this is how it's going to be for my class next year. And we worked it out. And
I helped him write a rubric for
this is going to be super, super easy.
That.
And hopefully over the course of the year, they'll learn some discipline.
Right.
Because they're in charge.
And
ultimately,
it's truly about self-control and choosing to behave the way you want to behave. Because if you do not have the self-control or the discipline to do things that you don't want to do but are good for you and for your future and will benefit you for your entire life, if you don't have the discipline to do that, you won't be able to do that. You limit yourself.
Yep.
You limit your children
stop your progress.
Instead of freeing them. So the casual parent typically does not produce a child that can do the things that are necessary so that they can survive on their own and be independent of you. Like, sitting in your basement playing video games when they're 40. You want your kids and yourself to be more than that. That's not a good life.
And it requires discipline for yourself, and you need to have that model there for you.
Yeah. So there's, like we said, there's two parts. If you don't teach them the rules and provide consequences, and you just get angry at their disobedience and they didn't know the rules or know the consequences, right? And you're just beating on your kids because you're mad, that's not going to produce the results you want.
Right.
And like we were talking about last week and the week before, the connection between you and your children won't be there because they don't consider you safe.
Yeah.
Because you only discipline when you're mad.
And this needs to be a conversation that you have with your partner or whatever too, because if you're
your kids.
If you're not on the same page, then the kids will figure that out very quickly.
Yeah.
And like, but mom said this, or but dad said that. Like, no.
No, yeah.
It's like no emotion on both regards. Like emotion I think is fine, but the correct response comes from both.
Right. And if you can't back your partner up when the kids are playing you against each other, they're like, oh, no consequences for me. Because mom thinks you're being too hard or dad thinks you're being too soft or, whatever. So agree.
Those are the same comment.
Was it?
I don't know. Was it? Anyway.
Mom thinks dad is being too hard and dad thinks mom is too soft. Yeah. Anyway. So typically that's the dynamic.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's not always. So I guess what we're saying is we're not going to tell you whether or not to spank your kids or to put them on timeout or ground them or take away privileges or whatever. We're just saying decide.
Be mindful about it.
What you want to do. And if you would never do something when you're not angry, then it may not be wise to have that be the consequence of the broken rule.
And if there's something that comes up that hasn't been considered, then you don't have to take care of it right then.
Right.
You can discuss it.
You can say, let me think about the consequence to your behavior. Please go to your room or something like that.
Right. You don't have to meet it out right then and there, especially if you're angry. Like you can have some calm down. We'll talk about this in an hour.
Yeah. I need to calm down.
Go to your room
and if
for
they
an hour.
won't calm down or go to their room or whatever, then you remove yourself.
Yep.
Because I remember many times where I'm like, you need to go to your room because you are not behaving yourself and I'm mad at you or whatever. We're too angry. We need to take a break. You go to your room. Mm-hmm. They won't go.
It's like they're asking for it.
Yeah. So unless it's a safety issue, then you take a timeout.
Yeah.
Let them throw the fit, kick and scream or whatever it is. They're not going to hurt themselves. You know what I mean? Like our youngest, he used to, when he was little, bang his head on the floor when he got upset. And the day he realized the consequences of his actions, it was like a light went on in his head. I watched him like I'd put my hand in between his
tile.
head.
It's tile.
Yeah, our kitchen was tile, and I'd put my hand in between the floor and his head, and he'd still bang and bang, and I'm like, "Stop! You're hurting yourself!" Like, right? But he was like younger than 1 at this time, right? And so the day he figured out that him being angry and whacking his head on the floor was the cause of the pain he was experiencing, he stopped. He never did it again. He's like, whack. Oh, never did again. Right? And so
he's fine, by the way.
He's very smart kid.
They're durable.
But anyway, so unless they're whacking themselves in the head, you take a break. Because that is the one thing that we will say is do not discipline in anger. Yeah. And decide beforehand what you want to do. Because if you don't have a plan, you will be, I don't want to say loser in the situation, but the end result is not going to be ideal for you or whoever you're trying to teach discipline to. And so think of discipline as an education.
Yep.
Not a punishment. And I guess that's that's kind of what we want to say is self-control is not a punishment. It will help you and give you more options in the future. So thanks for watching or listening. If you have any questions, email me or post or whatever it is. And please consider sharing this with your friends and family and your friends on Facebook or whoever it is that you want to share this with. Because we would love to help as many people as possible. The family is falling apart and we want to combat that. Yeah. We want our relationships to be positive and the source of joy in our lives instead of the worst moments of our lives. So we want to help people. So please share and discuss what we share with your friends and family. Anyway, thanks. Bye-bye.